Hey guys, Inferno from Dragonic Empire here with another deck profile for you guys, and this one is going to be of my Ultimate Dimensional Robo Great Dai Kaiser deck. Been having a tremendous amount of fun playing with this deck, so it's a really fun card. But for those of you who don't know the effect, it's a special Counterblast 2, Dimensional Robos, and he gets a triple drive check for the turn. Limit Break 4, but Dimension Police do have a Limit Break enabler announced for them, so yeah, that could be fun. And of course he's a cross ride for the base form of Daikaiser. So yeah, really solid break ride, really solid cross break ride, and quite scary for your opponent really. But it's a really great card. Can't really fault it too much. So running 4 copies of it, just for consistency's sake. You do want to get it to your hand and ride it and triple drive check and yay, and get triggers and hopefully win. But yeah, the third drive check really does catch people off guard sometimes, and plus it gives you a bit of card advantage. So it's really solid. I do like it a lot. And of course, we are running the 4 copies of the base form of Dai Kaiser, the break ride. His break ride skill is, when a grade 3 or greater rides on top of it, Counterblast 1, plus 10,000, plus 1 crit, and plus the skill of, when you drive check a grade 3, you get to retire something from your opponent's Guardian Circle. So yeah, perfect guards can go away, and yeah, because you get a third drive check, there's more chance of you breaking through, which is pretty silly. And pretty funny, when it works, anyway. So, yeah, really solid card. Last grade 3, I'm running 1 tech Shadowkaiser. So it's technically like running a fifth Ultimate Daikaiser, because what Shadowkaiser does is, when he's on the rearguard circle, and you have normal Daikaiser on the vanguard circle, you can Counterblast 1, push him into Soul, do the whole docking formation thing, and you can cross break ride straight from the deck, which is pretty fun. Yeah, the only problem with that is obviously you're diluting your deck, or you're thinning your deck out of grade 3s, so you have less chance of getting the Guardian Circle retire effect off. But he does force out a lot of pressure anyway on his own, because he gets plus crit and whatnot. But yeah, it's a good little surprise that you can throw in there. But if you do happen to have to ride it for any reason, it's not too bad either, because he's got the classic Limit Break 4 plus 5,000, and what they had back in the past was they were 10k bases, whereas this guy's an 11k base, so that plus 5,000 essentially makes him 16k on his own, which makes it really easy to make 21k plus columns with a decent booster behind him. I mean, putting a 7k booster behind him, I think, makes a 23k column, which hits a good cross ride number. So yeah, it's really good if you have to ride it anyway. Well, it's not really good, but it's not the end of the world if you have to ride this guy. And plus it ups your grade 3 count, so you've got more chance of actually getting one during the drive check when you need it. So onto the grade 2s. Of course, are 4 copies of Dai Dragon, all the way back from BT08. Raise your hand if you remember BT08. Yeah, a long time ago when Dimensional Robos were first introduced, and now, only like 5 sets later, or Fighters Collection finally got released, we have more support for them, which is great actually. So yeah, he's your classic 12k swinger when you've got a Dimensional Robo in your Vanguard Circle, which you pretty much always will do. So yeah, he's constantly a good solid 12k attacker. Next grade 2 is the 10k Vanilla Dai Fighter, mainly as a solid grade 2 ride, and he's not a bad rearguard either, so he's mainly here for consistency's sake more than anything. And it's a 10k Vanilla, not much more that can be said about that. Last grade 2 is 2 copies of Dai Barrett. Yeah, it's just a promo card or box topper card. from one of the Oracle Think Tank half boxes, I believe. But his skill is Counterblast 1, push him into Soul. Your Vanguard gets plus 4,000, and the skill of, if it hits that turn, you get to retire one of your opponent's rearguards. So it applies a little bit of pressure, should you need it. But for the most part, it's just a 9k vanilla. I just haven't really come across anything to fill its gap, really. And he's quite a good little toolkit card if you happen to need it. So yeah, that was our last grade 2. Grade 2 count is at 10 because we've had to make space for one more grade 3. You can chop and change your ratios of grade 2s and grade 1s to suit how many grade 3s you think you should be running. Personally, I like 9 because any more than that seems to be just too much, because you don't really have a consistent discard outlet here. Because like if you drive check the grade 3s, you tend to have them stuck in your hand, and they don't really go anywhere because you don't have a drop and draw, or you don't really have a drop and draw grade 1. That's Dimensional Robo anyway. On to the grade 1s. I'm playing 4 Perfect Guard because Dimensional Robos don't have a Quintet wall as of yet, I don't think. And Perfect Guards are generally quite a good thing to have in the deck. So, of course, running the 4 die shields. Next grade 1 is the 4 10k attackers when you have a Dimensional Robo in your Vanguard circle. Dai Kaiser, so yeah. It's good for that early game aggro, and plus it's a 7k booster otherwise, so it's a solid card. And if Dimensional Robos did have a drop and draw mechanic, this would probably be the slot for it. But since they don't, 10k attackers is a good way to fill the void. Next grade 1, I am running 4 copies of Die Brave. He's your ideal first turn ride, because his effect is Counterblast 1, Soul Blast him from the Soul, and your Vanguard gets a skill of if it hits, you get to draw an additional card. So yeah, it's good for applying pressure, because mainly at the cost of 1 Counterblast, your opponent will either lose a card from their hand or you'll draw a card. So yeah, it's pretty solid, and it's a 7k booster otherwise, so can't fault it too much. Last grade 1. This last grade 1 is technically an interchangeable. This is all down to preference, but I'm preferring 2 Go Cannon right now, and this is because this is technically a cross ride deck with this guy and this guy. So what happens is, if you happen to ride to this guy first, and you draw him later, you can push Go Cannon and Dai Kaiser into the Soul, and you've got a cross ride off. And plus, Go Cannon gives it an extra crit. Give the Vanguard an extra crit, so yeah. It's mainly here to get a consistent cross ride going, and the +1 crit doesn't hurt, to be honest. So what he does is he pushes himself and an extra Dimensional Robo into the Soul, and gives your Vanguard a crit. So yeah, he's only there because of the cross ride. If there was no cross ride, he wouldn't really be in the deck, and he'd probably be this Commander Laurel. The only thing that's stopping me from playing Commander Laurel is his 4k base, which means that late game, because your opponent's not really going to let you hit anyway, it's really awkward to make a decent column with him. To make a decent column with Commander Laurel, you need to have a Die Dragon in front of him. Even if you have a grade 3 in front of him, it only makes a 15k column, which is still, I mean, back in the day it was good. I mean, yeah, back in the 10k grade 3 format it was great, but nowadays it's not so good. So yeah, I mean, by my terms of luck anyway, I do tend to have to ride these guys, which is excruciatingly painful, and I'd much rather have to be forced to ride this guy, which is a 6k base, and generally much easier to make good columns with it if I've already got a cross ride off. So on to our triggers. I don't think I've changed this ratio too much, but I probably will do at some point. We are running 7 crit, 5 draw. So it's the 7-5 ratio of crit to draw. You can afford to drop 1 draw now and put 8 crit, mainly because you've got triple draw trick coming up later on, and that kind of makes up for the 5th draw. But I do like getting draw triggers early on because it helps you get your components to your hand, although that is evidently relying on a bit of luck to actually get the draw triggers early on. So yeah, I'd probably swap out some draws now for some crits or some stands, actually. But these last triggers are definitely staying the same, so for heal. So the ratio at the moment is 754, although I could change it to 844 or 822. I mean, this part of the ratio is very much interchangeable to what you prefer, whereas the 4 heal is kind of just, yeah, standard. But yeah, I mean, nowadays I think I would run 8 crit 4 draw, because you want to put out enough crit pressure, and you want some draw, but you don't need too much because you are triple drive checking later on, hopefully. And our starter is Goyusha. He's the classic Dimensional Robo starter. In fact, he was the first Dimensional Robo starter, and he's still their best one, I think, unfortunately. I mean, there's Dai Magnum, but Dai Magnum's very vanilla-esque effect of giving your Vanguard plus 4,000, pushing him into Soul. It's kind of, yeah, it's not as good as being able to ride to grade 3 if you're grade stuck somehow. And it's not that bad because you can force a break ride off him if you believe you can break through that turn. So yeah, it is a -4 effect, so you've got to push him and 3 other Dimensional Robos into the Soul, and you can superior ride a grade 3 from your deck if you're on grade 2. Yep. So yeah, you can force a cross break ride, you can get to grade 3 if you're grade stuck, so he just helps for consistency's sake, and he's a 5k base, so decent booster if you don't happen to use him. So yeah, he's still the most consistent starter for Dimensional Robo as of now. So yeah, that was my Ultimate Dai Kaiser deck. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Make sure you like, comment and subscribe on the video, because that really helps us out a lot. And we'll see you next time.